Hey guys, Ferrell here. Today I'm going to talk about why I'm still shooting with the X-pro1 in 2021 and also why this camera has such a massive following. You ready? Let's go. So I've had the X-pro1 for 6 years. It originally came out in 2012, so in camera terms, it's a little bit of a dinosaur, but it still holds up today, and I think that's one of the main reasons so many people do buy it. I used to do a lot of animal portraiture, and I used to shoot a lot of it on the X-pro1. Now, it's by no means a fast focusing camera, but it was good enough to get the job done and get what I needed for my clients. Now, I no longer do paid work, but I do still do a lot of my own photography just for the fun of it, and I do still keep hold of the X-pro1 even though I have an XS10. I think in 2021 a lot of people would really like to get into shooting film cameras, but it's just not the most affordable thing anymore. Picking up a second-hand X-pro1 and a lens mount adapter or just a single Fuji prime lens, that's certainly a lot more convenient to a lot of people now, and I think that's one of the big appeals. Not only are you getting the really nice analog controls that Fuji gives you, you also get an organic, grainy look to your shots that you just don't get anywhere else. The sensor in the X-pro1 is where the magic happens. This is where Fujifilm truly changed the game. They went from using an industry standard 2x2 Bayer sensor to their own X-Trans 6x6 filter array. And because of that, all of their images have a much more natural feeling noise to them. So even if you're shooting at a higher ISO, the grain that you get, it's so much better spaced. It feels like you're shooting a film camera even though you know you're not. Some of my images, I really emphasize that look to them. And that's one of the big reasons a lot of people are looking to buy the X-pro1 now, and why the second-hand market value, which was very low, it's starting to creep back up rapidly. Another draw to the X-pro1 for a lot of people, it's the analog controls. I absolutely love it. For me, being able to change my aperture and my shutter speed on the fly, it's so much more convenient than any other system I've gone with. I will say that I'm more comfortable shooting this camera than anything else I've previously owned, and that's not just an opinion. I've been working with it for so long that it just feels second nature to me. It's like picking up a film camera and all the dials are the same. Right there on the camera, you've got direct access to your aperture, you've got direct access to your shutter speed, you've got your exposure compensation dial. It makes shooting photography into a fun experience again, and it can be a real tool in developing not only your photography skills, but your general camera handling skills. Another nicety of the Fuji X-mount system is that you can actually fit vintage lenses to it with no issue. So I've got a Nikon 60mm macro lens here, which is great for portraiture as well. And with the right adapter, that's on there, and I can use focus peaking to get the images that I need out of it. So it's been great for using stuff that I wouldn't normally get the chance to use. If you see a nice cheap camera and lens combo in a charity shop, you can pick it up and you can probably find an adapter to stick that lens on your Fuji. Due to the filmic image quality, I do feel that this just produces images that, while they're not entirely accurate to how the scene portrays it, they are the nicest to look at. Certainly for me, I find that even shooting in the black and white settings on this camera, it just produces something that none of my other cameras have ever been able to do. It really captures scenes in the way that you artistically would want your camera to capture it. Now obviously, if you're using the RAW files from the Fuji X-pro1, you can get professional grade images. That's how I shot all of my clients' work, and for that the colour accuracy was amazing. It's one of the things that Fuji is well known for, and understandably so. I still find their colours to be some of the very best out there, and you can see why they are so respected in the industry. It's a little thing to add, but ooh, the shutter noise is good. We like that. Now, in the grand scheme of things, there's pros and cons as per everything. You guys know me by now. I'm going to rip this thing apart as I would any camera, but I'm also going to show it the love that I have found and enjoyed with it over the last 6 years. Pros, the image quality is amazing. The colours and the graininess, the filmic-like images, that stuff, top tier, next level. None of my other cameras can achieve that kind of look. The film simulations built in, they can make you produce really nice JPEGs straight out of the camera, especially if you don't want to spend forever messing around with your images. The analog controls are to die for. I've recently got an XS10 and it's lost a lot of that analog feel to it. It's a fantastic camera, but I would certainly prefer to have the analog controls that I'm a lot more used to. I really enjoy having the focus selector right there on the camera, again as an analog control, rather than having to jump into menus to actually change what focusing system I'm using. So another benefit is the X mount system. So I have two Fuji X lenses that I use. One is the 35mm f1.4, which is considered the god tier lens. And the other lens is the 15 to 45mm zoom lens, which is the lens that came with my XS10 and I mainly use for video work. It's a real joy to be able to use the vintage lenses though and have focus peak in there as an aid to help you out so you can shoot them. Obviously it's all manual work, but that makes it just more enjoyable and feel, again, like a vintage camera. The profile of the camera is interesting, you know, it's not the best for grip, but I really dig the boxy feel of it. It's a little bit unique, it makes it enjoyable every time you pick the camera up, and I don't get that with any other cameras. As a break from the DSLR format, this is a really nice thing to hold, and I really enjoy just picking it up and shooting with this. Even if I'm shooting something completely pointless, I'll often take pictures just because I enjoy using the camera. This is a pick it up, go slow and enjoy it process. It is one for your large stills, you know, if you're doing landscaping, that kind of thing, it's going to be right up there. It is a street photographer's dream, given that the viewfinder has an optical viewfinder built in. That is definitely one of the cooler features, but it is one of those features that I find I just don't use that often. I usually rely on the EVF or the LCD screen on the back. Low light performance is incredible. You can shoot this to some really high ISOs and you can still get really useful images that you can push so far in post. Okay, so on to cons. So the autofocusing does suck. It's not the worst, but it is still very slow. It was updated quite a bit through firmware updates. So if you are currently rocking a X-pro1 and you've not actually updated it, it's well worth doing that. It does make quite a bit of difference. And it is something that later Fuji cameras have improved on, but they don't carry the original X-trans sensor, and for me that image quality that comes with that, it's a very unique combo and it's something that I'll be sticking with for a very long time. While the X-mount lenses are incredible, they do tend to be very expensive, and that's something to be aware of. When I bought this, I actually had to sacrifice having multiple lenses to initially just have the one 35mm. I'd still say it's the very best lens that I have, but it does limit you in what you can do. So it is something to be aware of. Maybe you'd be a little bit better with one of the Fuji zooms, which are also excellent quality. They're usually metal builds, but it is something just to be aware of. The video mode is not great. It will shoot 1080p 30. You can't really use an external microphone with it, and the quality is just not that good for video. It is something to be aware of. Again, I've shot a little bit of video with it and it's been okay, it's been usable, but it's certainly nothing that I would recommend. Especially with some of the older Fuji lenses as well, the autofocusing can be extremely loud. So if you're doing stuff like this, you would most likely be able to hear the lens autofocusing over your work, so that's also something to be aware of. You can generally pick the X-pro1 body up on the second-hand market for about £200 to £300, which is really good value for money. I think it was about £1,500 when it first came out, and it was very much marketed as a pro-grade camera. So you can pick up the 35mm f2 lens for £170, which is pretty good value for money, and it's going to last you an awfully long time. Again, it's a little bit slower than the f1.4, but you do save an awful lot of money in picking that lens over the 1.4. Alternatively, you could just buy an adapter for one of your favourite vintage lenses and just shoot completely manually, and you'd have a really fun experience just shooting everything analog. But yeah, this is just a quick video. I wanted to give a shout out to a camera that I've had for 6 years. I love shooting this camera. The images on it make it really stand out to me, and that's one of the reasons I'll likely hang on to this camera for the rest of my life. If you guys have Fuji cameras or you're interested in the X-pro1, throw me some comments, I'll have a chat with you down there. And yeah, thank you very much for watching the video. A like and subscribe goes a long way to helping the channel out. I'll see you next time. Peace. Ugh.